What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Monday Night Football NFL Pre-Lock Show. Oh, man, I was going to do the Good Evening Grinders. I was going to do it. I was going to blow the speakers out like Blender did, but it's too late now. I had to do it off the top. And who knows? That might have wrecked my voice for the rest of the show. So we're just here. We're here for the Monday Night Football Pre-Lock Show here on RotoGrinders.com and live on our YouTube channel, sponsored by BetMGM. Use the promo code on BetMGM GRINDERSBET. You can bet $10 and get $200 instantly if your team scores a touchdown. So we'll go through some of the odds for this game on the show and find some of your favorites. You can bet along with BetMGM, bonus code GRINDERSBET to get that free money. I am Justin Van Zuden, aka STL Cardinals 84. I've got Keith Eister alongside me. And yeah, I'm filling in for Blender, and we got a pretty good one on Monday night. So nice game here to fill in. Keith, how you been?
Doing good. Yeah, should be a really exciting game here. These teams put up a boatload of points in their first one. Nice 51-point total here. I was talking with Carlucci last night about that game, Bears-Packers, and we were talking about how, Packers will probably blow them out, and the Bears actually hung in there for a half, and then, of course, it went the way we thought it would, but it was a more exciting game than expected. So hopefully this one follows suit. We get a little back and forth high scoring affair here.
Yeah, more points in the second quarter there last night in the Bears game than the total for the whole game going in. So was definitely a wild first half. And the Packers got their heads on straight and took control in the second half. But a couple housekeeping things. We usually have the live chat available on YouTube. You might notice if you're on the YouTube feed that we have disabled that. Just some shenanigans going on in there. So we're going to use our RotoGrinders Discord channel. We have free channels in there, so you don't have to be a premium subscriber to RotoGrinders to get in the channel. If you go to rotogrinders.com and sign in with your member username and password, again, even if you're not a premium subscriber, you can get to the Discord. We are in the NFL weekly chat under DFS discussion. It's down towards the bottom of the channel listing on RotoGrinders in the Discord. So that's where we'll take some questions. You can banter back and forth. We're going to do that in the NFL weekly chat on rotogrinders.com. And of course, we do have quite a few Discord channels that are premium locked. So if you're interested in those or any of our RotoGrinders premium content, good time to sign up. NBA, NHL, NFL going on. Golf will be starting back up in a few weeks. RotoGrinders premium, you can get single sport packages or you can get a combo package. You can get $10 off your first month by following the link, which we will have Devin drop into our Discord chat. Again, the NFL weekly chat channel. And I believe we also have that in the description of the YouTube feed as well. All right. Let's start laying the groundwork for this game a little bit. As Keith mentioned, 51-point total in this game. We do have quite a few injuries. So we got Jalen Ramsey, Tyler Higbee. They're on the COVID list for the Rams. Feels like that's going to be a thing for these teams down the stretch run here. But the Rams are missing those guys. They're also without Darrell Henderson. And then the Cardinals are still without Chase Edmonds. So we've got quite a few injuries in this game. Keith, how does that change the way that you are building your lineups here?
The main thing for me was Chase Edmonds did not get activated from the IR. They had designated him to return, but apparently he needs another week. So still no Chase Edmonds. And that means James Conner is still playable. Pretty hefty price tag. So if Edmonds was going to come back and cut into his role, it was going to be really difficult to play James Conner. He's still priced up, but now at least we have that workhorse role that he's seen over the past couple of weeks here. The Cardinals are favored at home. So even though there's a big price tag, still like Conner a good amount. We'll note the spread moved from -2 to -3 also with Higbee and Ramsey getting ruled out. So slight change there. That doesn't really affect a whole lot here, but those are the main things I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think that lays it out pretty well in terms of how the injuries are impacting this game. Of course, both teams have their top receivers. DeAndre Hopkins came back last week for Arizona. They got Kyler Murray back. Matthew Stafford's good to go. Cooper Kupp's good to go. So we got the primary weapons in the passing game active on both sides, and it will be interesting to see how the whether James Conner can continue to dominate without Chase Edmonds, and how much the Rams decide to rely on Sonny Michel here tonight. Some of it might depend on the game flow, but let's just talk about the two teams in general here as we talk about our kind of general approach to lineup builds. Kyler Murray is our most popular captain. So if we look at the Arizona side, he's really the only one that we have in the double digits in terms of captain percentage ownership. So is Murray your favorite captain on the slate tonight?
He is up there. I will have plenty of him, but I'm probably not going to try to be overweight on that. 22% number was what we have projected. People tend to play quarterbacks in the captain quite a bit. That has fallen off a little this year, but somebody like Kyler Murray, I think with his ability to do it on the ground and through the air, that he will touch that number at least. I would look to the other side of this. Cooper Kupp has, as good of a role as there is in football, over a 30% target share. So I prefer Kupp slightly. I'm going to try to get over the field on him. We have him coming in just slightly lower than Murray. Do love both of them, but be over on Kupp and probably right at the field on Murray.
Yeah, Kupp had a slow start last week, but still ended up with his usual 10 targets, 8 catches, 129 yards, got a long touchdown catch in that game. So continuing his stretch of what is now every single game this season with at least 9 targets. And he has 7 100-plus yard receiving games. The non-100-plus yard receiving games, 96, 95, 92, 96, and 64, which was a game where he still had 13 targets. But that was the first meeting between these two teams. So the only silver lining, really, it's the only game under 90 was the first meeting between these teams. Small sample size alert, not saying not to play Cooper Kupp, but his production has been about as consistent as they come. So outside of Murray, Kupp, and Stafford, there really isn't a lot of captain ownership going around on anybody else. Even Stafford, we don't have super high on DraftKings. We can talk about Fanduel here in a little bit too, but anybody you might be interested in as a contrarian captain, say for a tournament build on DraftKings?
DeAndre Hopkins is a guy that I dug into a little bit, tried to make him work. But with the injuries he's been dealing with, his target share is not what it has been throughout his career this year. He is like a 20%, 19.5% target share this season, which is significantly down from where he's been at in his career. So if I'm playing Hopkins at his price tag, I probably want him to be in the captain. It's going to be more like a large field sprinkle for me though. And then the rest of the Cardinals are really tough to figure out. I do like the price on Christian Kirk. He'd probably be the one I would take stabs at. I don't mind if you want to throw in some Zach Ertz as well. but I think it's really the running backs that I have the most interest in. Both of these teams are heavy passing teams. But I do think that if one of them were to get out to a fairly decent lead, we mentioned the spread, it's projected to be a close game. But if for some reason we get a game script where one of the teams is ahead, I think one of these two running backs could get some really heavy volume, just because there's almost no one on the depth chart behind them that either of these teams trust. So it would be Connor or Michelle. I think Michelle in particular has a really good price tag for what his role is going to be tonight. I think you're on mute, Justin.
Yeah, sorry. Michelle 10-8 for captain on DraftKings. Rondale Moore is the other one that's going to get just a little bit of interest because he's 3,000 in the captain. If you have questions over Hopkins' health or his role in any capacity, I mean, you got Hopkins, you've got Kirk, you've got AJ Green, and you've got Moore. And we saw Moore, even in weeks where everybody was active earlier in the season, he was playing on, say, around 50% of the snaps, and that salary does make things work. Now, I'm going to turn into Blunder for just a second to say that if you do Captain Rondale Moore, you're not being as unique as you think you are, because you can fit, if I put Moore in the captain, I've got $9,400 per position for the other spots. And so I can fit in Murray and Kupp and Stafford and even maybe another high price guy like Sonny Michel. And I've still got 6,200 for my last spot. So if you are captaining Rondale Moore, even though he's only going to be like 8% owned in the captain, it's still not necessarily a slam dunk that you're going to get yourself a unique lineup. Maybe it's a little bit more of a chance than if you're jamming like a player that's $200 or $400 or $600 on DraftKings in the captain spot. But a lot of times that we say, okay, if they're 3% captain ownership, that's still 20,000 lineups or whatever it is. So Blunder's not here, but he's here in spirit because I passed that along. Just know that just playing Moore in the captain doesn't necessarily make your lineup unique. All right, I'm going to say this a few times during the show because it's a change. If you're looking for the chat, we have moved our chat to the RotoGrinders Discord, which either you can access under the menus on the homepage. And as a matter of fact, I can just do it now since I'm sharing my screen. If I go to NFL, the bottom link is Discord, so I can get to Discord that way, and then go to the NFL Weekly channel, or you can simply type in your browser rotogrinders.com/Discord, and then you log in, and that will get you to the Discord chat. And again, we are in the NFL Weekly channel. If you're looking to chat or ask questions, which we'll take some of those here in a little bit after we kind of finish laying the groundwork on the slate. So we've kind of talked about general captains. Let's talk about kind of just how our build approach is going to be in terms of say preferred number of players per team. So Arizona's favored by 3. Are you leaning your builds more towards, say, 4 Cardinals or 5 Cardinals, or possibly the reverse with more Rams? Which team are you maybe a little heavier exposed to in terms of your builds?
With the close spread, I'm finding most of my builds come up at 3-3. I'm sure we'll dig into Slate IQ towards the end of the show as well, showing a pretty good number on that. So that made sense to me. That's where I landed for the most part. I mentioned liking Connor, and his price tag is difficult to fit in, but I did jam in as much of him as I could. And then the Cardinals have a little bit trickier of a wide receiver situation to figure out. You mentioned Rondale Moore's price tag. He's going to be one of the most popular value plays on the slate. So just with the Moore value, and I think that Connor's going to be a little under-owned for his role, I'm finding myself with a little bit more four Cardinals than I am 4 Rams.
Yeah, I think that does work a little better in terms of the salaries, particularly if you're playing Moore. It just gives you access to that 4 Arizona lineup a little bit, because there's not a lot of other slam dunk value on the slate. I suppose if you want to trust one of the Rams tight ends, we can get there. But let's talk about flex plays for these teams then. Let's say, just for the sake of a build that we are captaining, let's just go with the chalk captain Murray. Say it's a cash game type build. You could certainly play Rondale Moore in the flex. and then that kind of opens up your salary. You mentioned Kupp as your favorite captain. Is he your favorite kind of Ram to jam in general, or do you like Michelle at the salary a little more?
For a flex play, I think I lean Michelle slightly. He just feels a little bit underpriced still. He was the chalk a couple weeks back when Henderson got rolled out late and Michelle was like 4,300 on a main slate. That price is still not quite fully up to where it is. A lot of times what you see when the main running back gets ruled out, the backup running back often has an even better role than the starter has because they don't have to split with that second guy. Like in the Rams case, especially, there's nobody behind Sony Michel. Mekhi Sargent hasn't been on the team more than 2 weeks, I don't think. And there's just nobody behind Michel that they trust. So he's going to be out there a ton, and that price tag is just too low for him. If you play Murray and Kupp together, I do have plenty of that. I'm not saying we're going to fade Kupp at all. But Murray and Kupp together gets really pricey. Maybe you touched on the Rams tight ends are definitely going to be available as punt plays. So it does work if you want to do it.
Yeah, and you look at Sonny Michel last week, what you were just touching on, 24 carries, 121 yards, had 4 targets in the passing game as well, which has always kind of been the knock on his game. He's not going to catch passes, but this is an important game. I mean, they're going to ride the guy that at least has that experience, and I don't see them outside of Sonny Michel having a, dumb mistake or fumble or something like that, like Sargent and Javion Hawkins are not going to see a significant number of snaps. I think Michel is probably about as safe as it gets on the slate in terms of salary. Might not be as exciting, might not be as flashy as a Hopkins or a Kupp or something like that, but certainly thinks he gets the job done. And of course, we're not going to show you full build outs here on the show, but you can get something real easy like Murray, Moore, Michel, and Kupp, and you still got $6,000 on your last 2 spots there. Let's talk about secondary pieces on the Rams. If we're looking for, say, a secondary receiver to pair with Stafford, Van Jefferson made some big plays the last couple of weeks. He's gotten a little more opportunity. You never know what you're going to get rolling the dice with Odell Beckham. I did see somebody in the chat a little bit ago bring up Skowronek, who feels like he's been on a relevant thing as a punt on a few showdown slates this year. So how are you handling those secondary receivers for the Rams?
Yeah, Jefferson's priced up a good bit, and his role has supported that recently. You mentioned the big game last week, but he's been on the field all season long. Even when they had Robert Woods there, he was seeing over 80% of the snaps. So he's been a locked-in part of their passing game. Beckham is significantly cheaper, 1,800 on DraftKings, and the ownership is projecting to be about even. So I think I would prefer to save the money and trot out more Beckham. It's not a strong preference, but maybe just like a 30% Beckham, 15% Jefferson type of thing. Just go slightly under on Jefferson because of that price tag. It's a little bit harder. I mean, he definitely needs to score to pay off that price tag. Kupp is a huge part of that. They're going to hand the ball to Michel plenty. So I'm just not sure how much touchdown equity is left over for Jefferson. Beckham being in the offense another week here has to help. So I like taking a shot on Beckham, just hoping that he gets a little bit more usage with another week at practice and just being more involved in the game plan.
Yeah, it does help to be on a longer week. If you look at the snap counts, Jefferson was at 78% last week, 98% the week before. He'd been in the 90s for several weeks. So we know that Jefferson's going to get plenty of snaps. If we look at Beckham, he was at 52% last week and 98 the week before. So he has been on the field quite a bit, but just, you mentioned the price tag. I think that's a factor because being able to save $1,800 is going to help you build out a lot of lineups. So in a vacuum, I do prefer Jefferson. I think he's a bit safer, but it is hard to ignore that salary. Any interest in Skowronek, or would you rather have a tight end?
That's an interesting conversation, and I did some digging on the tight ends, and
all right, good luck.
It's not pretty. I don't know. I don't know that the Rams are going to run 4 wide receivers out there very often. Skowronek will probably rotate in there. This is a team that likes to play 2 tight ends a fair amount. They really did it when they had both Higbee and Everett there. Now this week, neither of them are here, so definitely some things to work through. I think one of these tight ends is going to be on the field. I'm not sure who it is. Blanton is a big body guy, not very athletic, where Hopkins is kind of the opposite. He's an athletic. Seems like he would be the better pass catching option, but the problem is neither of them have really seen much playing time. So it's a difficult one to figure out.
Yeah, I have no idea how to break it down. I mean, we've got Hopkins at like 1/4 of the ownership, at which case I'd probably just take my chances. But if you look at his game logs, there's a grand total of zeros on there. They're all dashes. It's nice and symmetrical, all zeros for Bryson Hopkins. So I'm not gonna sell it as this must-have thing, but they are basically min salary. We do see tight ends on these showdown slates, and particularly backup tight ends have had games this year. So not going to put it past doing it in a few tournament lineups, but probably a little bit of fool's gold if we try to sit here and tell you that one of these guys is guaranteed production. Your guess is about as good as ours on that. Frankly, we just don't know how it's going to play out for the Rams.
Just as a note, they were both active last week, and Kendall Blanton ran 4 routes. Bryson Hopkins ran 2 routes to Tyler Higbee's 33. So it appears Blanton was slightly ahead. But you mentioned the ownership discount on Hopkins and a little bit more of an athletic guy. So there's definitely reasons to take chances on both of them, I think.
Reminds me of a quote that I saw today from Urban Meyer's press conference where they asked him about one of his defensive players. And he said, well, he's been playing more. And then somebody brought out the game logs and he played 0 snaps yesterday. It just continues for Urban Meyer in Jacksonville. He can't get out of his own way. All right, let's talk about the Arizona side here quick. We'll take a look at Slate IQ. We'll take your questions. We are at about 25. Yes, this one's 8:15. It's 25 minutes until lock. Again, if you're looking for the chat, RotoGrinders Discord, rotogrinders.com/Discord. You do not need to be a premium subscriber. We are in the NFL Weekly channel on the RotoGrinders Discord. And you can either access it from the homepage under the NFL menu, click on Discord, or just go through rotogrinders.com/Discord. All right, let's talk about the secondary receivers, I guess, for Arizona. I'm kind of in agreement with you that I don't think Hopkins is a priority given his price, given his injuries. It just feels like if I'm going to spend up for a receiver, I just go get Cooper Kupp. Rondale Moore is going to be more popular because he's basically free. So where do you stand on these Arizona receivers, particularly in GPPs?
Yeah, I would love to come out here and say fade Rondale Moore. That ownership is too high, but his salary allows you to do a lot of things with the rest of your lineup. I understand the leverage and game theory aspect of it, but it doesn't feel good trying to fade Cooper Kupp or Kyler Murray. So I think Moore is kind of a necessary evil in that regard. If you want to be at half the field or something like that and take more shots on some of the punts that we talked about, tight ends, or these other Arizona wide receivers, I do like a good amount as well. But yeah, I'm going to be about even with the field. That's not the spot that I'm trying to get my leverage. Between Kirk and Green, it's a difficult conversation. I think, we've seen AJ Green perform in this offense, surprisingly. But Christian Kirk is my preferred option here. I'm just pulling up there. He's been on the field a little bit more. For the season, he's played about 68% of the snaps. No, I'm sorry. It's the other way. AJ Green has played 80% of the snaps this year. Christian Kirk has played about 68%. But I just prefer Kirk's big playability. AJ Green, as veterans age throughout the season, their bodies tends to wear down faster. It's Kirk over Green for me, but I'll have sprinkles of both of them.
Yeah, I just think the floor on Green is pretty low. Sure, he could go up and catch a touchdown, but I think you get a higher floor even with Kirk maybe at this point, and maybe even more of a ceiling, if not the touchdown equity that you might have with Green. I just think the athleticism and the target share a little bit safer with Kirk at this point. So I'm with you on that. We're not trying to be ageists here. But these guys aren't Tom Brady. They don't have as much of that secret sauce to keep them going at 44 years of age. And then Tom Brady dominating the social media scene too. So what one would give to just beat Tom Brady for a day, wouldn't be me. But that's all right. All right, let's see. I think we've pretty much gone through anything else of interest in terms of just your general interest level in individual players. What are you doing with Connor?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. We did skip over Arizona tight ends too, so definitely want to throw
Connor and Ertz.
Yeah, Ertz is definitely in the conversation. He's priced in that same range as Green and Kirk. If I was ranking them, man, I do like Ertz a good amount. I think I have Kirk slightly ahead of him still. Mentioned the big play upside. Tight end not as valuable on Showdown where you don't have the positions. They all play the same flex position. So if I had to rank them, it'd be Kirk, Ertz, Green. James Conner is definitely an interesting decision point because his price tag. I mentioned if Edmonds was active, he was overpriced, and I thought a pretty good fade. With this role, though, I mentioned I'm trying to jam as much as I can. I feel like he is a little bit underowned. Just pulling up the ownership here. He's at 30%. I guess Michelle's kind of in the same range, and he's much cheaper. So, but Connor's going to be involved the whole game. There's no way that he gets game scripted out. We've seen this for 3 weeks now without Chase Edmonds. Benjamin has been around. There were rumors that he was a more talented pass catcher, was going to take some of that role from Connor, but that hasn't been the case. Connor's role is too good. I like him over paying up for like Hopkins or somebody like that. If Arizona gets a lead as they're favored to do, I think they're going to try to keep the ball away from the Rams a little bit, and they might lean a little more run heavy even than they have throughout the season. So Connor's big time in play for me.
Yeah, I like him a lot. And of course, if we're going to peek behind the wall here at scoresandodds.com. This is our sports betting arm here of RotoGrinders. And we've got premium picks posted. Pretty much we get to do like 25 or 30 a day now among multiple sports. So we've got our different experts giving out picks. So you can see Eric Beinfor got in with the Cardinals -2. As Keith mentioned at the top of the show, they're favored by 3 now. We've got one expert liking the under. And then we've got Keith, who likes the over receiving yards on James Conner. And that has also bumped up just a little bit with the Rams injury news and confirmation on Chase Edmonds not being active. So you can see Keith wrote it up at 22.5 receiving yards about 2 hours ago. And now it's up to 23.5 on DraftKings and Fanduel, all the way up to 25.5 on PointsBet. So, and then on our sponsor, BetMGM, also 23.5 receiving yards. And reminder, you can bet with BetMGM. Use promo code GRINDERSBET if you are in an authorized state, and you bet $10. Your team scores a touchdown, get $200 free money in your pocket. So basically, you can just bet on pretty much any team most weeks outside of maybe the Texans and the Jaguars, and you'll probably get that free $200 from BetMGM. Can't wait for them to get here in Illinois and get some more competition for sports books in our state, but we shall wait patiently for now. All right. I'm going to bring up Slate IQ here in a second. While we do that, we'll also take a look for questions, and I'll let you answer some of those as we go. All right. Lots of people talking about Skowronek, and a point here. McVay seems to be the type of coach that takes a long time to earn for fringe players to earn his trust. Since Skowronek has at least been running some routes, could you see in a scenario where he runs more routes and gets more opportunities than any of the tight ends because of their tight end situation? I think that's a valid point. But you mentioned concerns about whether or not they're just going to go out there and go 4 wide.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. He cannot play the tight end position. Now, I'm not privy to how great of a run blocker he is or anything like that. So from a schematic point, I don't know if
Skowronek is from Northwestern. He knows everything. He can do everything.
There you go.
Gritty.
I mean, basically you'd be looking at 4 wides and he's in the slot kind of picking up. a much bigger guy. I don't see that happening. They're going to use a tight end. Now maybe they open it up a little bit more, but I think one of these tight ends is going to be on the field for even more than Skowronek is, for sure.
All right. Let's see. Thoughts on Van Jefferson in the captain spot in a DK single entry?
Yeah, it's definitely viable. The problem is his teammate there, and his massive volume that he receives on a week-to-week basis. If you've been waiting for Cooper Kupp's volume to come down this season, that's not worked out very well for you. Jefferson has looked good the last couple of weeks. I'm definitely on board with using him. I want to get to more Kupp, and didn't find as much room for Jefferson in my build is what I'm saying, but it's definitely viable.
All right. And then also we didn't talk about kickers. Obviously you don't have weather to worry about here. You got offenses that could sustain a lot of drives, maybe stall out on a few of them and get some field goals. So I certainly don't mind the kickers as flex plays if the salary works for you. I never really have a strong take on kickers.
I'm the same way. Like if the 4K salary fits into your build, they're completely fine. They're not a high upside play. So I wouldn't do like a punt tight end hoping that he gets one catch for a touchdown, and then a kicker as well, just because it's difficult for you to get to a GPP type winning score with those kind of low upsides in your build. So I would definitely want some more upside in my lineup if I was using a kicker.
All right, I promised Slate IQ. Here we go. Pulled up Slate IQ here on the screen share. And again, if you're looking for the chat, rotogrinders.com/discord. And we are in the NFL Weekly Discord channel. It's free. You can get in even without a premium subscription. Now we have 15 minutes until lock here. So with the Slate IQ, if we look at past similar slates, you can see the bar chart here. The gray bar is what most of the field is doing. And the blue bar is what we've seen from the top 0.1% of finishers on similar slates in the past. And you can see that the top 0.1% of lineups are more than what the field is doing in 3-3 builds and 2-4 builds with 4 players from the losing team. Tough to peg with a close spread, but maybe would lean towards a little bit more exposure to the Rams here. But the 3-3 build by far being the most common, 42% in top 0.1% of lineups, with the field only doing it 36% of the time. So Keith, you mentioned you were landing on a lot of 3-3 lineups. Looks like that the data supports that tonight.
Yep, it's always nice when what you think makes sense, the math agrees with. So love to see that.
Keith Luck boxed himself into some positive EV lineups here.
That's right.
Your lineups will tend to gravitate towards that. I definitely don't think it would shock me, to see the onslaught be the winner tonight. I mean, I just don't see a 38-10 type of game. Both teams are explosive enough. And frankly, both teams should be better defensively than they've shown, particularly the Rams. I mean, I know they're trying to gel in some new guys, and obviously, with some injuries now, you got a little bit of a built-in excuse, but I don't know. It's an important game in the standings, important game in the NFC West race. You might see these teams played a little closer to the vest, particularly at the beginning. I didn't put in an official pick tonight, but I kind of like the under. I know the under bets aren't sexy and aren't the fun ones, but for what it's worth, I kind of like the under tonight. We look at the simulated roster construction. You can see the optimal is, again, 3-3 around 39% of the time, 4-2 around 40% of the time. So those tend to be the builds. Again, not much simulated optimal on the onslaught builds, 5-1 or 1-5 on this slate. So not much change there. We look at historical captain usage. Every showdown slate, all the data, the past usage supports tight ends in the captain. And I can guarantee you are not using a Rams tight end in the captain tonight. So Zach Ertz is your play if you're interested in the leverage on tight end 1 in the captain. And also, not surprisingly, a lot of wide receiver 1 in the captain. Field only doing that 11% of the time on similar slates, though I think you'll see a little bit more tonight with Cooper Kupp. And the top 0.1% of lineups doing it 26% of the time. So definitely seems like wide receiver in the captain makes more sense from a leverage perspective, as opposed to just jamming in a quarterback tonight.
Yep, that's generally the way I like to build my lineups anyway. You mentioned Cooper Kupp, just his volume, it makes perfect sense. Mention Hopkins on the other side. I think that's maybe why the field isn't doing it as much. Just Hopkins has not been very good this year. So I think I'd be curious to see what Hopkins comes in captain ownership is what I'm trying to say.
Sorry, I think we've got him around like 8 or 9. But clearly on past slates, the wide receiver 1 and tight end 1 provide the leverage here. All right, now let's look at projected captain usage. You can see these are the most popular captains, and then we got a little smaller scale down below for the lower owned ones. But the orange bar is the optimal captain percentage based on our simulations, and the blue is the projected ownership that we currently have on the captains. So it is showing a little bit of negative leverage on Murray, with his captain ownership being about 22% and the optimal being around 18%. Everybody else pretty much in line, maybe a little positive leverage on Sonny Michel there, a little positive leverage on Cooper Kupp, but nothing extreme. If we go to the lower owned, looks like maybe a little negative leverage on Rondale Moore as well, and a little positive leverage on Zach Ertz. So that corresponds with the historical data up above, but not a ton of wide variances here. The field's getting pretty smart with these showdown builds, but anything that stands out to you here?
The Kyler Murray is the one that I noticed when I dug into this earlier. I mentioned his rushing ability. Felt like he was a good choice as the top captain. So to see that as slightly negative leverage was the one that was surprising to me. And then I mentioned the running backs. I had a hunch that might be the case because people see these as high octane pass heavy offenses. So I kind of had a hunch that the running backs might be coming in a little bit under owned on the slate, and it turns out the data that's what we're projecting to see as well.
All right, definitely agree there. And again, here's some of the charts, and then at the bottom we've got projected flex usage as well, with the blue bar being our projected ownership and the orange bar being the optimal. So you can see maybe a little bit of negative leverage here on Rondale Moore and Cooper Kupp in the flex. Maybe you can use that wide receiver 1 in the captain. But where we're seeing pretty clear data here is like flex ownership on Sonny Michel at 33 and optimal at 43. Same thing with James Conner, flex ownership at 31 and optimal at 41. So our projected data with our projections and ownership is maybe telling you to make sure you get those 2 running backs in there tonight.
Yep, I love it. That's exactly what I did. So hopefully that works out for us. And that supports your lean to the under too. I think if we get a little bit
Can't
lower
wait
scoring
for 60
game.
Points in the first half. Just like I didn't bet last night's under though, so I'm safe. I've got a buffer there. And let's see, Kirk, a little positive leverage too, another player that we like a little bit. The last one that kind of stood out to me, well, Jefferson, there's definite negative leverage on Jefferson, though I think maybe we're a little light. I don't know. I'm a little biased towards Jefferson, though, so maybe that's just me. I'm part of the giant blue bar being way too overweight on Jefferson. But the other one that stood out to me was the defenses, particularly the Arizona defense at about 9% ownership, optimal at 18%. We haven't really talked about the defenses yet. And I mean, it's a running joke in showdowns that like you're probably not getting there, but like we saw the Bears return a punt for a touchdown last night. If you double dip with Jakeem Grant, thank God I didn't play a whole lot on that showdown slate because Jakeem Grant would have been so far away from my interest level because he was somewhat chalky and he was cheap. And the 2 touchdowns, it would have been a first half close the laptop for me. But what do we make of the defenses here, particularly the Arizona defense?
Yeah, that was interesting to me too. I think the price is a big factor in that. 3,600 for the Rams, 32 for the Cardinals. So you don't need them to do as much. I think if we get the big total game, it's going to be difficult for the defenses to get there. But Stafford has been prone to some mistakes here recently. Been some rumors about the back trouble that he's dealt with throughout his career flaring up. But yeah, the Cardinals, I do like a good bit, especially with the way Stafford's been playing here recently.
He made some errors in that Titans game, a couple interceptions, and I believe one that they returned for a touchdown on a showdown slate that you just never know. And on a slate that's a little tough for salary, if the Rams tight ends don't get there, if Rondale Moore doesn't get there, a defense could easily land in the optimal. And then you can see at the bottom, this is a little bit hard to see if you're just going off the screen share. You have to pull it up on your own. If you're looking for, get yourself a premium, RotoGrinders premium, $10 off your first month if you use the link that we'll have Devin throw in the chat. But you can get yourself a kind of handy little chart that shows past comparable slates, average floor and ceiling versus tonight's projection, and then whether or not they project, above, below, or pretty even with those historical averages on past slates. So the projections in this realm, they do like the receivers a good bit. James Conner and Sonny Michel. Sonny Michel's got a little positive compared to average there. But again, just another way of slicing and dicing the data. You can get to projected ownership in there as well. So that's kind of a lot of handy data in a small little table that's hard for us to kind of break down a ton on the screen share. But that is Slate IQ. And again, if you like what you see, get $10 off your first month using the link in the chat or in the YouTube video description to get $10 off that first month of single sport or combo premium. All right, I'm going to circle back here and take a look at the chat, see what we've had come in here. We've got 5 minutes left until roster lock. Favorite MVP on Fanduel. All right, yeah, we didn't talk about Fanduel that much, so let's talk Fanduel. Large field GPP. Now, a lot of times the chalk really concentrates on Fanduel, plus you only have half point PPR. So where do you stand on Fanduel? I think you can make captain a running back on Fanduel, or MVP rather.
Yeah, I like that call a lot. I was just pulling it up to see what Stafford's ownership looked like because I think Kyler Murray would be the obvious optimal captain. Just because Kupp doesn't get as many points for his receptions, no yardage bonus. Stafford at 17%. So second highest. That makes sense. We actually have Stafford projecting as higher owned than. Nope, I'm sorry. He's still just slightly below Kupp, but much closer over here on FanDuel.
That's pretty close.
And the running backs are way down the list. So I really like that call. Those would be my first two looks. And on FanDuel, I don't know how different you want to get at MVP just because the raw scoring is harder. It's very touchdown dependent. So you need the guy that scores twice most of the time. And if there isn't a guy that scores twice, it's usually a quarterback.
Yeah. Give me Michelle or Connor if you're looking for somebody a little contrarian. Hope the running backs get the touchdowns tonight. Ertz will also be a little higher owned on FanDuel, relatively speaking, because he's cheap. In terms of relative captain ownership, he's 9,500. That's $6K cheaper than Stafford, 5,500 cheaper than Kupp. If you want some perspective, Rondale Moore's on. You don't have to get super crazy with the punts on FanDuel, but you're going to see a lot of ownership. Like if I put Rondale Moore in here, I've got $13,125 to spend per player. There's only like 3 guys priced above that mark. So you can get Murray, you can get Stafford, you can get Kupp, you can get 2 of those 3 guys in there. So you are going to see a lot of ownership. We talk about this a lot on FanDuel with their no multiplier for the MVP slot. You're going to see duplicate lineups. You're only playing 5 guys instead of 6. Just a lot more overlap on FanDuel, so don't be afraid to leave some salary on the table. Because if you play Moore, if you play Ertz, you could basically play anybody who you want and round out your lineup. But if the optimal zeroed out lineup, that like the best projected zeroed out lineup hits on FanDuel, that's going to be duplicated probably about 600 ways here, given the presence of the cheap guys. So anybody else that you find maybe a little more interesting on FanDuel, maybe a lower volume receiver that might make a big play, somebody like a Beckham, something like that?
Yeah, Hopkins is the one I was going to mention because his touchdown equity. I mean, this is still one of the most talented receivers. I know he's been dealt with injuries all season and hasn't really seen that big role with a couple of their additions to the receiving core, but Hopkins could definitely catch 2 touchdown passes. So I would take some stabs on him over here as an MVP.
2 minutes to go until lock. Mr. Perfect wants to know if he's crazy for fading Cooper Kupp.
I don't think it's crazy. I think it's unlikely that he's not in an optimal lineup, but the field ownership goes with that. So you're talking about one of the highest priced guys on the slate. You're talking about one of the highest owned guys on the slate. All you need is for him to, I mean, he doesn't even have to fail. He just has to not score and not catch 10 balls, basically. I mean, if you get 8 for 80 and he puts up 16 points, that's not really going to kill you.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing 1 or 2 lineups, I don't think it's crazy. Like if you're doing 150 lineups and you're fading Cooper Kupp entirely, that's probably a little crazy. But you're just doing a handful of lineups. Hey, you play to win these, and you know, a lot of times it's high variance. So, like you say, if Kupp gets 5 for 65 and even maybe a touchdown, depending on how high scoring the game is, wouldn't necessarily break your night not to have him. Maybe you don't take first, or but you can still make some nice cash. But then if he does have that down game, you've got huge leverage on the field. So we have basically hit lock here. We're right at 8:15 Eastern. So hopefully you got all those lineups locked and loaded. And that means we haven't really answered the biggest question of the night yet, which doesn't really hit me until it's time to get off the air. What do I want to have for dinner tonight? I do not know. I have not eaten dinner yet. And it's 7:15 here in the Midwest, and I'm starting to get pretty hungry. So I don't know. I don't know what I have for dinner tonight.
I'm in the same boat. I never like plan these things out. It's always just, what do I feel like? What's in the house, or do I want to order something?
Right. Yeah. That's probably going to be, I don't know. We've got like frozen pizzas and stuff. I don't really feel like that tonight. It might be an order out night. Didn't have a big lunch, but I don't know. I don't know. That's why I said it's the burning question. I've got all the rosters locked and loaded. Now I've got to figure out what I want to have for dinner. So anyway, you guys don't have to worry about that. I have to worry about that after we get off the air, and we are successfully past lock. Enjoy the game tonight. Should be a really good one between and Mr. Perfect clarified that he's just playing a single entry. Don't mind rolling a Cooper Kupp fade. Hey, if Cooper Kupp gets an 80-yard touchdown like right now, you can, then you got family time the rest of the night, and you don't have to worry about your lineup. But that's going to do it for us here. Thanks to Keith for joining me. Thanks to Devin for producing for us. Thursday night football, we'll be back. We shifted around the schedule a little bit. My son has a choir concert on Thursday, so I'm usually on Thursday. I'm on tonight instead. But whoever's on Thursday night has another good one. Chiefs and Chargers. Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert coming up on Thursday night. Saints Bucks next Sunday, kind of the first dud maybe that we've had for a primetime game in a little while. But you never know. The Bears kept it close last night. So check us back out here on the YouTube channel. Thursday night football, just a couple days before we get week 15 kicked off. Chiefs and Chargers, we'll have you covered for that one as well. So for Keith and Devin, I'm Justin. Enjoy the rest of your Monday night, everybody. We'll see you later.